All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about the hidden patterns that drive our relationships, all based on the pretty incredible work of a psychiatrist named Eric Berne. We're going to unpack the unconscious scripts we all follow and the surprising reasons behind our most repetitive habits. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. The fight that seems to just pop up out of nowhere, but it always follows the same script and leaves everyone feeling the exact same way. It feels random, right? But what if it isn't? What if it's actually a predictable, structured, and totally unconscious routine? So to kick things off, we're going to look at one of Bernays' classic case studies. And it's just a perfect example of a conflict that seems to be about one thing on the surface, but is secretly about something else entirely. So meet Mrs. White. Her complaint here probably sounds pretty familiar, right? It's that classic story you might hear from a friend. A controlling husband is holding her back. The villain seems clear, the victim seems clear, and the solution feels obvious. If he would just let her, she could finally be free. Okay, so following the advice of his wife's therapist, Mr. White decides to change his tune. He stops being so restrictive. He actually starts encouraging her to go out, find a hobby, do all the things she said she wanted to do. The cage door was, for all intents and purposes, wide open. And this is where it gets really interesting. Faced with the very freedom she supposedly wanted, Mrs. White was suddenly confronted with a much deeper truth. Her husband wasn't the real barrier at all. The real barrier was her own intense, hidden fear. And in a very strange way, he had been protecting her from it this whole time. This was not just a simple disagreement. Her complaint wasn't actually a real plea for freedom. Their whole pattern, the arguing, the making up, it all served a hidden psychological purpose for both of them. So what do you call this predictable, recurring, and secretly motivated pattern? Well, Eric Berne called it a game. Now, hold on, he didn't mean fun like a board game. A game, in his world, is a recurring set of interactions with a hidden motivation. It looks like one thing on the surface, but it's really about getting a secret psychological payoff. That fight wasn't a fight at all. It was a game Berne called If It Weren't For You. So to really understand how these games work, we need to grab Berne's basic toolkit for looking at how we talk to each other. And it starts with this idea that our personality isn't just one single thing. Instead, all of us are constantly shifting between three very distinct states of being. Berne called each one an EBO state, basically a whole system of thoughts and feelings and behaviors that go together. It's like we have three different people living inside us, and he argued that we all have them. And this simple model breaks it right down. First up, you've got the parent. This is your internal collection of all the shoulds and should nots that were taught to you. Then there's the adult. This is your rational self, just processing data right here. And finally, you have the child. That's where all your feelings, your impulses, and your memories from being a kid live. The big takeaway here is that we aren't just one of these. We're shifting between them all the time. Okay, so with the parent, adult, and child in mind, let's see how they actually build the structure of a game. Berne's big insight was that games happen on two levels at the same time. There's the social level, what we're actually saying out loud, and then there's this hidden psychological level, which carries the real unspoken message. And right here, we can see the two levels of Mrs. White's game in action. On the social level, it looks like a parent-to-child thing. He gives a command, she complains. But the real action, the real conversation is happening on the psychological level, between their two inner child states. He's not really saying stay home. He's saying, don't abandon me. And she's not saying I want to go out. She's saying, please restrict me so I have someone to blame for my fears. This hidden motive, that's the engine driving the whole game. And believe it or not, Berne even created a formula to describe how pretty much any game unfolds. It starts with a con. That's the invitation to play, which hooks a gimmick or a weakness in the other person. This kicks off a series of responses until suddenly there's a switch, a quick shift in ego states that leads to the final payoff, the hidden emotional prize that the game was really about the whole time. Let's look at another one of Berne's, famously named games to see this formula in action. He called this one NIGSOB, for short, and it's a game played by someone who is unconsciously just looking for an injustice. basically waiting for someone else to make a mistake. So here's a perfect, simple example. A vase is broken. The mother knows Johnny did it. Now the adult, fact-finding question would be something like, go get the broom. But instead, she asks, who did that? That's the con. It's a setup. It hooks Johnny's child, who takes the bait and lies. And boom, that's the switch. She now gets to flip from a calm adult into an angry parent. And her payoff is that satisfying rush of righteous anger. She got him.
So this is the really crucial part to get. The payoff isn't always pleasant. In fact, it's often a familiar, even uncomfortable feeling from our childhood, like righteous anger or guilt, confusion, maybe victimhood. Games are a way we unconsciously engineer our world to re-experience these old, predictable emotions.
Oh, and I am willing to bet you have seen this game everywhere. Someone comes to you with a problem, and every single solution you offer is shot down with a yes, bet. The real point of this game isn't to find a solution. The secret payoff is to prove that no one can help, which leaves the helpers feeling useless and the player feeling completely justified in their inaction. So, if these games are so often, well, dysfunctional, why on earth do we play them? And maybe more importantly, how can we stop? In this last section, we're going to look at the fundamental human needs that these games try to satisfy and Bernays' vision for a more authentic way of living. Byrne argued that all of us have these deep fundamental hungers. We need stimulation. We crave recognition from others, what he called strokes, and we desperately need to structure our time to avoid just staring at the wall. Games are a highly structured, very predictable way to get strokes and fill our time, especially when real unstructured intimacy feels way too scary or just isn't available. You know, for Byrne, the whole point of understanding games wasn't just to be clever. It was a tool for healing. The end goal was to help people move beyond these repetitive, unconscious scripts and achieve a state of true, genuine autonomy. And this is what that goal looks like. It starts with awareness, the ability to see the world for yourself, not just through the filter of what you were taught. From that comes spontaneity, the freedom to actually choose your response instead of just running the old script. And finally, that leads to intimacy, a real, honest, game-free connection with another person, which, by the way, is the only thing that truly satisfies those deep hungers we just talked about. By becoming aware of these patterns, we actually gain the power to choose. We can see the con coming, refuse the payoff, and just step outside the script entirely. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what's your go-to game? And what would it look like to choose intimacy instead?